Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lucha Rewatch episode. I'm going to get it right this time. Episode 6.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, we just watched episodes 21 through 24 of Lucha Underground Season 1. Remember that if you are having trouble trying to find these episodes of Lucha Underground, hashtag Netflix needs Lucha to make sure that they are available to watch at your command, because Netflix is on demand and streaming and stuff, and it's only $7.99 a month, which is a better value than the WWE Network, even though they wouldn't tell you that.
Yeah, because the WWE Network, they're going to make it seem like they're the cheapest thing around. Not really, no.
So let's get
As
right into it, John, unless there's
yeah,
anything else that you had to say about hashtag Netflix needs Lucha.
just that it needs to happen. Guys, keep contacting Netflix directly. If you don't want to do that, keep tweeting it out. Any way that you can show solidarity with Lucha Underground and them getting some kind of platform to keep doing the amazing things they do, we implore you to go out and do it. So with that said, Ashton, you may take the reins.
Okay, now I'm going to let you guys know right now, there wasn't a ton of, kind of like that, we needed to rewatch this because there was stuff that we didn't see the first time that we didn't catch kind of stuff in this series of episodes. But what I am starting to notice is it starts to really feel like Lucha Underground wrote these episodes 4 episodes at a time, because it's starting to feel like when we start on the 5th or the ninth or the 13th, or in this case the 21st episode, it almost feels like they start a new story almost every time.
Yeah,
Because last time when
yeah.
they did we started on the 17th. They started the whole thing with Cage, I think it was, going after the title. Or no, not Cage. They started Mil Muertes versus Phoenix, really. Like that whole, there was a lot of stuff that started, and this time they started the trios tournament.
Right, yeah, that was the really big focal point for this batch of episodes was the trios tag team titles.
Oh, you know what it was, John? Conan. The whole Conan thing last week with the cane and the amazing vignettes and stuff. That was literally all 4 of those episodes. Episode 17 was the first vignette that we got of it, and by episode 20, it had paid off with Conan using the cane to help Puma beat Cage. And now in this one, it was the trios tournament, because literally episode 21, we start things off with Big Rick introducing Killshot and the Mac to Cueto, talking about how, word on the street was that you ordered the hit on me. And then Cueto tries to make up for it by introducing the trios tournament, talking about how he's going to crown trios champions and that they were in the tournament if they wanted to. Of course, they demand money afterwards, but that aside, they started the tournament in episode 21, and by episode 24, the entire thing was finished. And it really felt nice and neat and organized and concise, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate it as well, and I think that's a very interesting catch by you because it shows just how neatly Lucha Underground does its writing, and really by extension how neatly this series has been packaged. Us reviewing 4 episodes at a time because it seems like we're really just reviewing, in hindsight, one big arc at a time. In different areas. And now again, the focus here this week are the trios tag team titles. I loved watching this tournament again, especially the finale, which I think was definitely one of the standout moments of season one. I can't wait to really get into this with you, so let's get started.
Just one more thing. I'm going back even further because I have notes on every single episode, and now because normally what I do is I type up the notes, and when the episode's over, I kind of shorten the notes. Like if I have like match 3, Prince Puma versus King Cuerno, fun match, lots of shenanigans that didn't get caught. Puma wins post match brawl. For the actual description, I'll shorten it down to just match 3, Prince Puma versus King Cuerno. Like I'll take all of my sort of color commentary out of it and just have basically what happened, like a recap, and I'll copy the recap version of it and I'll paste that into the description and then just delete it and act like it never existed, because we don't need to re-access it and it's in the description and that kind of stuff. But for this, I am saving all of my notes that I'm taking on this rewatch, and I've got one document with all my notes up to episode 24. Through 24 episodes, I have 469 lines worth of notes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I can actually go back, and as of I believe it was the 4th episode of Lucha Rewatch, it started with episode 13 and ended with episode 16. That entire kind of series of episodes was King Cuerno versus Johnny Mundo, because Cuerno interrupted Mundo versus Cage for the first time. It was really the first time he targeted Mundo in episode 13, and then episode 16 was Cuerno versus Mundo that ended in a double countout.
Right.
And then I think another example of that was just kind of not even necessarily storyline wise, but those 4 episodes were the 4 episodes that they had Mariachi El Bronx playing us into the episodes.
Right. Okay.
It was 13, 14, 15, and 16, because then by episode 17 they had that chick playing. I don't remember what her name was.
Yeah, neither do I. Interesting.
Yeah, like it seems like they're, I don't know if they're intentionally writing these 4 episodes at a time, or because like it feels like almost like the first 8 episodes all kind of mashed together, but then episode 9 we start with Aztec Warfare, and by the end of that little chunk we're doing Mil Muertes versus Phoenix again. We have Cage versus Prince Puma, and Cueto and Black Lotus have their little confrontation. It seems like there's very, and especially starting with episode 5 that we did of Lucha Rewatch with episode 17, it seems like starting there specifically, they're writing it 4 episodes at a time, and not necessarily just like not looking into the future, just they're telling very comprehensive stories in 4 episodes. Because like I said, with 17 through 20, we had the whole Conan Kane story that they told, and they started it in 17 and it paid off in 20. And now for this, it was the Trios tournament. So just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. Now we can move on. Episode 21, I already told you what the opening segment was with Big Rick and the family getting into the Trios tournament. So let's just get right into the first match of the night. Angelico versus Johnny Mundo. Excellent match. Probably Angelico's best singles match, I should say, of the first season. Would you agree with that, John?
Oh, certainly. And this isn't even me, like, showing that fan bias, like I love doing with you guys, like, of course, because it's Johnny Mundo. No, these guys have an excellent chemistry. I think Angelico really got to show up. I loved how competitive this match was. I loved how giving it seemed to be, like, hey, let's make Angelico look really good. This isn't just something that Johnny Mundo should make quick work of. I love the early teases. I love when two guys of similar styles do that, where they check each other's offense and then they're at a stalemate. Crowd eats that up every time, and so do I. I even loved like the whole finish where Angelico tries to go for like a Hurricane Rana and Mundo like has that checked. It was like a constant reading of both of these guys, and I just thought they worked excellently together. I was a big fan of this match.
Yeah, honestly, I had forgotten just how fun this match was. I know that when we first saw it, like I was excited by it and I was super into it, but by the time we got back around to watching it this time, it was like I went into it thinking, oh, this match should be fun, not thinking, oh yes, this match was so good, I can't wait.
Yeah, and I really love that these guys got to work together. I think Angelico has one hell of a bright future in Lucha Underground. Johnny Mundo, he's always that guy that I think you can depend on, like, hey, work a solid match with this guy or do this or do that. He's
Yeah.
more that dependable hand to me. And I think that's a great place to be in any company. So, for these guys to really come together and have an opening bout like that. And again, we've talked about the importance of opening contests before. You got to get the crowd, riled up and everything. I think these guys did that in spades. I love their effort, and I love this match.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Johnny does win with the end of the world, but it didn't make Angelico look weak in any means possible.
Certainly not, because again, it was preceded by Angelico. He wanted to give like a top rope Hurricane Rana to Mundo, but Mundo kind of just threw him off, and Angelico was, yeah, exactly. And then like Mundo, I loved how he hit the end of the world too, because he wasn't even in like that position. He had to reposition his body and then just go right into the move, and he did. Like, just the whole thing about the finishing sequence was excellent. I want to see these guys go at it again. So maybe we'll get our wish one day. That remains to be seen. Netflix needs Lucha. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, how great would it be to see now a babyface Angelico versus heel Mundo?
Oh my God, yeah.
Johnny Rudo.
I know, man. I dig it. So let's hope it happens again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. Black Lotus, writing in a journal of some kind, talks about El Dragon Azteca, talks about how he was there, and this was interesting to me. He was there the day her parents were slaughtered. So I mean, sure, she definitely thinks, and I mean, at this point, she knows, which obviously doesn't end up staying that way, but at this point, she knows that Matanza killed her family. But I find it odd that El Dragon Azteca was, in fact, there the day that her parents were slaughtered.
Right. It does make you think. Like, I think we need a bit more
Oh, and I'm
context.
sorry, John, just wanted to kind of insert it in there. For
Yeah.
those of you that are just kind of following along Lucha Rewatch because we can sum up 4 shows in less than an hour and a half most of the time, this has some major implications for Ultima Lucha because in the first part, in part one of Ultima Lucha, they do an angle where eventually we get to a point where Black Lotus gets caught by Cueto. He has hired guns involving a crew, and Chavo Guerrero capture her, and he puts her in the cell next to Matanza. And she's in there for weeks, and then El Dragon Azteca comes to save her, and Cueto tells her that he was the one that killed her family rather than Matanza, and she ends up killing El Dragon Azteca by then. So, and this, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I put Ultima Lucha spoilers on every single episode of this, because we have to talk about this stuff in order to get context. So, I just find it strange that like we're meant to think that Dario Cueto is this scumbag, but then he says that, and then we get something like this as context, and you really have to wonder like what the real story is. Did El Dragon Azteca kill her parents? Were her parents evil and he was trying to protect her? Did Matanza kill her parents and Cueto was just trying to protect Matanza? I don't know. I can't wait for season 2 to find out though.
To me, the rule of thumb has always been with Lucha Underground, and I've learned this the hard way so many times with this show, and I say that as a compliment. Nothing is ever as it seems.
Yeah.
As an outsider coming in and they're hearing about this story,
You know,
they
it's
may
funny you
think,
say that though, John. You say nothing's ever as it seems, but on that same note, they do a lot of instances where you have to take something literally too.
right,
Like with Conan, the only real storyline progression that we saw in those vignettes was him getting the cane, and as it turns out, that's exactly what the point of it was. Like there
right.
was no underlying message. He wasn't bringing in other people to help him to make like a faction or anything like that. It wasn't anything more than just the cane, which is what was highlighted with Vampiro. We see that he despises Conan. Conan is a manager for a babyface, so we should naturally think, okay, well that means Vampiro is a bad guy. It makes sense for like Drago and Aerostar. They say Drago is from El Inframundo, and every time we see him leave the temple, you see these fires blazing up from the ground because he's going back to El Inframundo. In Ultima Lucha, the finale, those last 5 minutes, we saw Aerostar put on his freaking jetpack and go back to the cosmos. Like, there's a lot of things that they say that you need to take literally, but on the flip side, there's a lot of things that you can't take at face value.
And I don't think this is one of those things because to me, I don't know with the whole Conan thing and Drago, and if you knew the history of Vampiro and Conan, which admittedly like I didn't know so much, but any like diehard WCW fan, I think they know it. Whatever. I think those are things that maybe you could more easily surmise. There's a lot of ambiguity in this story. And I think because there's so much ambiguity in this story, you've got to be very careful about any inferences you make. Because I think anybody looking at this, because hell, I did it first because you and I really didn't know what Lucha Underground even really was. Like, it takes everybody a while to really learn what this is. Could think, okay, this is a simple Avenger story. Woman sees parents killed. Clearly, this thing behind bars, this mysterious entity, is the killer. She wants to kill it. A, B to C, we all go home. But then not so fast. Because you have Cueto, who hasn't always seemed like the best guy, who seems like a scumbag, but then he's saying, well, hey, El Dragon Azteca is playing you. And we don't really know much about El Dragon Azteca. Like, there's so much ambiguity going on here that you may think you have it all figured out. But what if it turns out that Cueto really is the hero of this story? How messed up would that be if Cueto turned out to be like, the hero of this whole thing? I don't know. And that's what makes this story just so enthralling. And especially I won't say the conclusion, but the real turning point at Ultima Lucha when she kills El Dragon Azteca and she goes with the same man that only a few episodes prior ordered her kidnapping. Like it's just crazy how this storyline's been working out. But yeah, it does make you wonder: is Cueto telling the truth, or maybe him and El Dragon Azteca both kind of telling the truth in their own way, but it's not exactly what happened? There's just a lot of questions to me.
Yeah, yeah. Man, there's so much that I can't wait to find out in season 2, and not the least of which is just what Matunza looks like.
I know, right? They still saved. I love
We
that
got that
though.
tiny little sneak peek. We got to see his eyes and sort of like a maybe like a fifth of his mask, and I am just so excited. First of all, I love that he is a luchador. He's got the mask, and I mean, even if it's like a Psycho Ward mask, you can still say that he's a luchador because of the mask. I love that.
Right. Definitely. Well, it keeps in line with the culture. You
Yeah.
know, I love it, man. It's
Oh,
great.
so good. Up next, we had a backstage segment involving Johnny Mundo and Alberto El Patron. Very tense scene here. This is the one where Patron talked about how he almost forgot about Johnny entirely because he thought that he was in a different profession.
Yeah, this is a nice segment. Really set up the future tension. I have to say that I liked the quips from Alberto El Patron here. Really laying out the tension. This being the whole thing, like, oh, Johnny is kind of phased out, and now you've come back, but now I'm here now, and I've dominated North America. To which Johnny Mundo, kindly and in my view correctly retorted, I've been dominating things since I got here, so just kind of kindly acknowledge your place and we'll get along fine. And that didn't seem to go over so well with Alberto El Bitchbag, so then he just kind of left. So that's really where we're at.
Do you feel better?
No, no, not until we get to the episode where I see him picking shards of glass out of his face. So,
Hey, it's not far, man. I think it's like in the late 20s, early 30s, so it should be in the next episode or two.
you're damn right it is. Yeah.
All right. After this segment, we got Cueto setting up Sexy Star with Superfly and Pentagon Jr. as her trios team and putting them up against Big Rick and his family.
Yeah, I just love the Dario Cueto. He looks at Sexy Star on those that she, runs with, like Pimpinela Escarlata and Masquerita Sagrada, as like outsiders to his temple.
Yep.
And he just keeps screwing with them. And Sexy Star, being the most valiant of them, persistently, bringing the fight. And he's just like, well, I'm going to keep screwing with you. So here's Superfly, and then here's Pentagon. Have fun with that. And she's just like, whatever. So, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we get on to our second match of the night, Drago versus Aerostar. I believe this was their fourth, not first, fourth match in their best of 5 series. And we get Drago coming out of this as the victor. He's now up. Well, he's not up. He's now tied at 2-2.
Yeah, again, another fun match, great back and forth. What I appreciate about this match is you could tell these guys were really developing that understanding of each other's offense. Certain spots that may have ended a prior matchup
Yeah,
didn't really end a matchup here, like as you get later in the series. And then, of course, I like the tease. The commentary kind of played up every time they would do the handshake, but the handshake would become more and more tense, a
yep.
bit more aggressive. So, yeah, I really appreciated what they were doing here.
This was the most aggressive of the handshakes by far.
Yeah, without question, man, definitely.
Yeah, because like they had the really intense stare down, and then like Aerostar went to pull his hand away, and Drago kept a hold and dragged him in, and they were like face to face, head to head. It was so intense. All right, so then we got our main event of the evening, the match that Cueto set up earlier, the family versus Sexy Star, Superfly, and Pentagon. Pretty crazy match, but at the end of the day, the family does pick up the win. The more telling part of this match, though, is actually the post match when Pentagon goes to break Superfly's arm and Sexy saves him.
Yeah, I mean, Pentagon had cut a promo, prior to the match saying, Master, even though I've been paired with these pathetic partners, I'll win the titles by myself. So really, we have a justification for Pentagon's anger, and can I just say too, because I don't really know if I said it enough in our original batch of Twitwell reviews, I like how Pentagon, when he goes on the attack or he does the things that he does, it's more than just the one-dimensional characteristic of, oh, he's malicious, oh, he's psychotic,
Yeah.
whatever. Because no doubt, I mean, Pentagon is malicious, right? I'm not trying to say that he isn't, but he's malicious with purpose because he's serving in his eyes a higher power, a higher violence, if you will. What he calls maestro, jefe, things like that. So
Amo.
yeah, amo. So I
That's
like
the
that.
word that they keep on bringing up big time because that's like higher than master. That's like almost like a god, like a king, like a a priest almost, like I think they said that he was like the Pope or something like that.
And weren't you the one that brought it up because you thought about that term and then you think about Vampiro's attire for Ultima
Yep.
Lucha?
Yep.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Frickin' Sith Lord, man.
Dude, I freaking love Lucha Underground though because sometimes it's the littlest things they do, like the
Yeah.
littlest words they drop or whatever, that have the biggest payoffs. I
Yep.
freaking love that.
It's
But
awesome.
yeah, I just wanted to point out that I really appreciate that Pentagon Jr. isn't this caricature of violence and that there really is that depth there. Because yeah, his frustration is not necessarily, oh man, Superfly, shit the bed when it mattered most. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, but I think in the grander scheme of things, it's, oh man, I failed for my master. I didn't win the match. Somebody's got to pay. And, that's when he attacks Superfly. But to your point, Sexy Star stops it. And that's when they have, they begin their little story, which we'll get to later. So, yeah, fun matchup and great payoff considering what we'd get later on. So I enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that was episode 21. Let's get to episode 22. We open things up with Dario Cueto telling Prince Puma that he wants his champion to be in the Trios tournament because he wants the Trios championships to be very prestigious. He wants them to be sought after. So he tells him to find a trio, a couple of partners, and that he would put him in the tournament. And that's pretty much how this is.
Yeah. And isn't this the same segment, though, Ashton, where Cueto alerts Puma that your championship is going to be on the line tonight?
Yeah, against Cuerno. Yep.
Yeah. So, Conan takes issue with that. I mean, on the one hand, your client has a chance to be a dual champion. On the other hand, though, like, you're putting him in jeopardy with like this level of competing. So, definitely a conflict there. But they get their game faces on and they deal with it. Nice segment to really establish the tone for the night. We got a world title matchup and intrigue for the future. Who are Puma's partners going to be? How is this all going to shake out?
Yeah, absolutely. So then we get into our first match, which is another trios tournament match, which I dig. Team Sitcom, that being, of course, Ivelisse, Angelico, and Son of Havoc, taking on the team of Phoenix, Drago, and Aerostar. So basically the three kind of top non-champion baby faces, also not Johnny Mundo because he's up there too, versus the sort of strange bedfellows of the trios tournament.
Yeah, I think what really made this match work, just outside of the incredible talent involved, was the interplay of tensions here, because you have the tension on the one team between Drago and Aerostar, and then Team Sitcom, who was literally defined by their tension with each other.
Right.
Like the only guy that really doesn't have any beef is Phoenix. Phoenix is just like, hey guys, I came to compete. I just want to get paid.
Phoenix is
Like,
just like, you guys kind of handle your business. I'm gonna go on to be the most over upper mid card babyface in this company.
Yeah, just, have fun bitching about your relationship issues and your competitive streaks. I'm just gonna go on and, actually get my goddamn push and go to
Yeah.
the top. So yeah, I liked how there were points where it seemed like, Aerostar might have had the win, but Drago wanted the glory, and, vice versa. Drago might have gone for a pin, but Aerostar wanted the glory. You have Ivelisse walking out on, Son of Havoc and everything else, and on Helico, is disposed of, and it seems like that team's going to self-destruct. But wait, Son of Havoc, because he draws on the support of the Temple, is able to pick up the win, continuing on the fact that Son of Havoc, him and the people are one. And, I love that finish, because Ivelisse is just thinking, well, I'm going to show them, I'm going to walk out, and then they're just going to go to shambles, and then Son of Havoc wins.
Yeah.
I love that. So good. And then the look on her face, like, oh, I gotta do this again next week.
Yeah,
Are you
it's
kidding
pretty
me?
brilliant. It's pretty brilliant.
I loved it. I think Angelico even had a look of shock, like, oh my god, we actually won.
Yep.
We did something, guys. We did something. So
And
yeah,
it wasn't even really that either, because it wasn't we, it was I. It was, oh, I won, guys. I did it. I pulled it off because it was all him.
yeah.
Like even like when he won, you could just see like the camera panned over and Ivelisse was on her way up the steps and she just had this look on her face like, oh crap. And Angelico was on the outside and was like, oh god, yes, this is awesome. I can't believe that we didn't lose even though I wasn't in the ring and I'm clearly the best talent here. That's not my thoughts. That's Angelico's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and then you got Son of Havoc being like, that's right, Ivelisse, consider yourself dumped again.
Consider yourself still single.
Oh man. So Yeah, I really enjoyed this match. This is great. I really love the build up to team sitcom. Looking back, it was just so well done, and the payoff, which I can't wait to talk about. But just everything about that
Which
team,
was
and
in this series of episodes. It's worth pointing out.
yeah, thankfully. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even really made a mention of it. And then you got Drago and Aerostar, like knowing that they weren't going to get to their fifth matchup right away. This is a good, little come down while still building up the story at the same time. I just really appreciated everything about this match.
See, now why can't the WWE do anything like this?
I don't know, man.
Like,
You
I
know,
don't understand because here's my thing. WWE has this issue that is, and it's a constant issue. We've been complaining about it for years, and I doubt it's going to go away anytime soon. Where rather than building stories like this to make people want to see something and then giving it to them,
right.
WWE just tosses things together to fill television time. Like it almost feels like they only have 3 hours worth of Raw because they know that people will watch it no matter what they do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it's crazy to me because even with Lucha Underground, we were talking about it even with some of the weaker stories like Conan's Kane, in the previous episode of Lucha Underground rewatch. Even when the story seems like a bit much or a bit out there, Lucha Underground's committed to actually laying the groundwork, telling a coherent story, and giving you a payoff.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect, but I will never speak ill of them or take the piss out of them, when they're at least consistent with their storytelling and they give us a full story. With WWE, I mean, you look at this whole thing with even something that I think Lucha Underground could turn into gold, Cosmic Wasteland versus Neville and Lucha Dragons. I feel like in Lucha Underground's hands, they could really make that a compelling story. Hell, that probably would have Trios Championship implications.
Yeah.
Here, for WWE, honestly, I think it's just a placeholder. It's just fodder until potentially, because I have no idea the status. I don't know if you do. That's why I'm being very careful here. But for me, it's all about potentially until Stephen Amell can do something again. And I'm like, you got quality guys here. Give them something. Like, I'm intrigued by Cosmic Wasteland the same way I'm intrigued by a new aggressive Bo Dallas after he got the crap beat out of him by Brock Lesnar. But is it going to turn into anything? Probably not. In Lucha Underground, if somebody was destroyed by Mil Muertes or Pentagon and they came back with a mean streak, you better believe Lucha Underground would have a story in place for that person. In WWE, I feel like, okay, well, let's just put you in a random string of matches and see where it goes. And you know what? And inevitably always goes nowhere, at least in my history. It's really sad, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. All right. Well then, that being said, I mean, we could I seriously, John, since we stopped reviewing Raws, I seriously think we need to make some topical videos and talk about just kind of the state of the WWE and maybe even talk about some of the reasons why we're so happy to not be reviewing Raw lately.
It's been such a breath of fresh air, guys. Like, honestly, to
This
me,
Monday was awful. And not even and let me just no, you know what? No, we're going to make a video about this because I'm getting ready to spout off about Raw when we're talking about Lucha Underground. Screw that. Let's talk about Lucha Underground. Let's talk about something that we actually enjoy.
yeah, yeah, I'm with you there. So what came after this, man?
Conan telling Prince Puma that he's got the perfect teammate for this trio, Hernandez. And he says it hardcore, like straight up Spanish accent, not even accent, just he says it the way you would say it in Spanish, Hernandez. Like, makes him sound so much more badass because, I mean, otherwise it just sounds like Fernandez, and you know how that is. But yeah, so he brings up Hernandez and tells Puma that he's got him to be his partner, and they just need a third guy. They need to find another Vato Loco to join him. And Mundo's just like, hey man, they already found a Vato, and I'm here. And yeah, Conan isn't happy, but we have a trio.
Can I just say something real quick about this that I just
Probably,
thought of?
if you want.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm treated so well here on Twitter, guys. I even get free medical care. To me, what I love about Lucha Underground too is because you and I know you already put Ultima Lucha spoilers in there, and you and I already have established a precedent where we can jump ahead in the timeline and talk about things to kind of make connections of observations. And you and I have talked about how Conan's always been right about Johnny Mundo. What I like about it, though, is it does kind of skewer it a little bit when he's proven wrong about Hernandez,
Yeah.
because Hernandez ultimately, does have a turn. So then it kind of begs into question, well, is Conan right about this? I mean, he was wrong about this, so is he right about this? So I love that. Again, I love that even when you feel like, looking back, oh, he's probably telling the truth, he's really looking out for Puma, they're able to just blur the line just enough. And Hernandez, I think, was a brilliant device to do it, because he would do some amazing heel work here later on. And yeah, just him being the partner and what he would even do in this match, I was thoroughly entertained. So I can't wait, to get to that.
Yep, definitely.
All right. So yeah, fun promo. What came after this, brother?
After this, we had our second match of the night, Superfly versus Sexy Star, and this was the mask match that a lot of people thought was very controversial. Superfly versus Sexy Star would normally just be like a cool, almost like a Drago versus Aerostar style kind of babyface versus babyface. Let's just kind of send the crowd home happy, and then afterwards we'll shake our hands and go back to the back, maybe have a beer or something like that. But Cueto comes out and is like, I know you guys are friends, and I stand for violence, so you're going to be violent whether you want to or not. This is going to be a mask versus mask match, and it's a solid match, and of course, Sexy Star wins. I think that sort of one of the biggest complaints that I've seen about season one was LOL Sexy Star wins, because it seems like she just won every match.
And that was a complaint even you and I had to a degree. I will say
Right,
this
but there
though.
are people that legitimately don't like her because of it, and I think that we
Right.
both still enjoy her work.
Oh, I still enjoy her. I'm going to enjoy her even more now that she's got the armbar. I
Yeah,
hated that she won just with like hiccup victories.
right.
That's what bothered me. You get legitimate victories, fine by me. I think it's a great character. I think it's a very inspiring character. But what I really want to talk about, Ashton, before the post match, I just want to say again, because I know I said it in the original 2 hour review for this episode, I still, even after this rewatch, you know, I guess I can understand where the controversy comes from, but I'm still glad they made the decision that they did, because for me, it fits so perfectly with the Cueto character. This is a guy that, like he says himself, he loves violence, he runs this temple, and he's wealthy. I mean, if you look at our own history, very legitimately away from wrestling, you're going to tell me that the wealthy have never done anything, to desecrate cultures or certain groups of people? I mean, come on now. Like, so to me, Cueto really is being the real villain here. And I can understand, oh, traditionally in Lucha Libre, you want to build it up, you want it to be a big time feud. Cueto wants the quickest payoff to violence possible.
Yeah,
And if it's putting people's personal dignity and their livelihoods at risk,
so
that's
be
what
it.
it's about for him. Exactly. It's not even a cost to him. It's just a nuisance. It's just noise to Cueto. Get it done. Get me my violence. So when we're talking about building a character, because I feel like more than just Sexy Star, Pentagon Jr., and Superfly, more than just the direct players involved, this just added further build to Cueto's character.
Yeah.
And I still stand by the decision, if you want my honest opinion. I understand respecting tradition and culture, but I think when you've got a character as amazing as Cueto with a way like this to get heat, I wouldn't even call it cheap heat. He manipulated people. He's always manipulated people. He's established precedent. So, I still agree with this, and I just wanted to kind of get that out there.
Okay. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
dig that though.
Yeah, man.
All right. So up next we had well, I mean, did we even say yeah, Sexy Star ended up winning and taking Superfly's mask.
Right, and once Superfly took the mask off, then Pentagon Jr. was on the attack. Like,
And
he knocked
yeah.
Six Star off the apron, and then he broke Superfly's arm.
And you know what though? I will say that the one thing that did kind of annoy me about this was Sexy Star was, I mean, sure, she kind of looked like she was in pain, but she just kind of watched as Pentagon broke Superfly's arm, and then afterwards she ran into the ring to protect him. Like, really?
It's yeah, like see, I at first, because like I forgot what her condition was from the first watching, so I really watched her carefully on the rewatch. I'm like, okay, are they gonna play off the, because she got knocked off the apron, she could have tweaked her ankle or something or whatever,
No,
and
she
then
just
when you
popped right back in.
yeah, you pop right back in after like thanks, like what the hell? No
Yeah, I
wonder.
mean, it would have been nice if you would have, prevented me from losing my well-being.
It does make a bit more sense though, because I know you and I were laughing our asses off like several episodes later when she has the submission match with Pentagon and Superfly comes in and she's just kind of looking like, "I'm doing it, Superfly. I'm doing. Wait, why are you looking at me like that? What's happening? No, no!" And then the turn and it's like, yeah, anybody should have seen that coming. He came in the ring. What did you think he was gonna do? Sign party favors? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
No, I agree with you.
But yeah, I'm glad you pointed out. So now, what was our next segment? Now that we covered the post match of
Yeah,
this match.
yeah, yeah. Now we can get on to our next segment, which was our main event, Prince Puma versus King Cuerno. And I actually already read my notes to this match. Fun match, lots of shenanigans that didn't get caught. Puma wins post-match brawl. So, I mean, what more do you need to know, right?
Yeah, you really don't. Puma, another successful title defense. These guys worked magnificently together. It's
Yeah,
King
as usual.
Cuerno, it's Puma. Obviously, it's
Yeah,
pretty straightforward at this point. The brawl was nice because I think when you close your show again with the attention being on the trios championship rather than the world title because that business has already been settled, it stays true to Cueto's point. At the start of the episode, like, I want these trios titles to mean something. So when you have all of these top guys killing each other to make that mark, well, that's where it derives its legitimacy. So I really like this.
yeah, me too. Yeah, this was really, really good match. I like that they found a way to kind of work a lot of character development in that you had the heels kind of screwing around with Puma, and then Hernandez comes in and helps out, and we almost get like a blood feud between Hernandez and Cage that plays out over the 20 minutes or so that this match was happening, and it was just really good.
Yeah, man, I just really enjoyed everything about this match, just the work and everybody involved in it, and just especially the post match, just the really big brawl that was so well done. So good
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. All right, so now we can move on. We're going a little bit quicker than usual to episode 23, which we start out with Cueto telling Aerostar that Drago will stop at nothing to win tonight. He mentions Drago being from El Inframundo, with, of course, that being the opposite of where Aerostar's from, the Cosmos. It's like a heaven and hell issue. And then I love this too because Cueto uses the line, "If you see a shooting star, make a wish, but be careful what you ask for because everything in my temple has a price."
Yeah, I again, Cueto, this is his MO. Trying to incite violence, trying to bring out the most carnal, animalistic parts, of his competitors. And he does that with Aerostar, and there's definitely a real poetry. Aerostar from the cosmos, Drago from the depths of hell, and Cueto just kind of being the guy on solid ground in between, antagonizing these forces. I really appreciate that. From a storytelling perspective, it's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So now we can talk about the first match of the night, and it was the big triple threat that kind of played off episode 22's main event, Puma and Cuerno. Mundo, Hernandez, and Puma versus the team that we lovingly came to know as Metal Gear Solid.
Yes. Amazing. Again, back and forth between all these guys. I mean, you have all the big guys in one promotion. I'll be honest,
Dude, Cage in this match to me stood out the most.
he's incredible.
He
Cage is,
ate
yeah.
like 7 splashes and or other offensive moves from other guys in the corner, and then like 3 kicks. Like he was just getting decimated, and it was only a 2 count, and then he had enough in him to still hit a huge lariat on one of the guys on the other team.
Yeah, I really love this booking of Cage pretty much throughout all of the first season. I'd even say the end because despite what he, dealt with the Mac, he did get his comeuppance. I think Cage could still really be a big force in season 2. That remains to be seen if it gets on Netflix. Netflix does need Lucha again. Loved, Ashton, I've always commended you for taking notes because in matches like this, sometimes the calamity is going at such a pace you can't even keep up. Because I know, like, everybody was doing something at some point. I know Mundo even did, like, a springboard spear, which I really liked because that was something so new for him. Cage was destroying everybody. Puma was being Puma. His name has literally become a verb with how incredible he is.
Yeah,
And, I love the end of the match, too, because the heels, they were just opportunistic. Puma was left in there with Cuerno. Mundo tried to help. but he got clocked in, the head by Tejano, with the bull rope, and then Tejano does the same thing to Puma. Cuerno gets throw of the hunt. He pins Puma, so he pretty much gets the momentum back that he lost the episode prior, and I love that too. So you have the recovery, Metal Deer solid wins, and yeah, just everything about this match was great. Another little thing I appreciated about this match too, and I've never really seen this in tag matches, and I wanted to point it out. There were times in this match where there were pinfall attempts, and the other free members of the team, and I said free, not three, just to clarify, would try and break up the pin, but they were restrained. But the person would still kick out anyway. Normally when you see partners restrained, it's like, oh, it's going to be the end because they couldn't help, but the person digs down and they kick out of their own willpower. I like that. I like that little tease, like it's going to be over, but no, it's not. That was so clever. Yeah, this is a really fun match.
I agree. It really, yeah. This match was just nuts, man.
0 to 60 and like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even say that it started at 0 because it immediately just out the gate it was nuts.
Yeah, man.
Like I know that it wasn't, but this felt like the kind of match that would have started with suicide dives to the outside as one of the teams was entering.
Right? Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
Hit the nail on the head.
After the match is over, though, as we know, Tejano uses the bull rope to help Cuerno pin Puma. Which, I mean, I love that too, because Puma just beat Cuerno, so now Cuerno gets that win back, even though he needed Tejano's help, which keeps Puma strong as well.
Exactly.
Everybody stays strong, but it's so much better than the crappy even Steven booking that WWE does.
I know, dude. I mean, look, the whole finishing sequence of this match, especially when you consider the preceding episode, this is booking at its finest. It really is, and I'm so glad.
I feel like if this was WWE, you would have had Prince Puma beat King Cuerno clean, but then the following week you would have had King Cuerno get like a super cheaty roll up or something like that. Or no, you know what it would have been? Puma would have beaten Cuerno clean, and then Cuerno would have beat him down, and then the following week they would have had this tag match, and King Cuerno would have and basically just like quick roll up beat Puma clean. But no, they had Puma beat Cuerno despite shenanigans, and then they had Cuerno beat Puma also because of shenanigans.
Right.
I just feel like it's obviously the shenanigans are not perfect, but the way that they used them was.
I mean, it's on another level, dude.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, this level, and this isn't anything against Lucha Underground, as I'll show in a moment, this level shouldn't be anything extraordinary, but I think there are so many other companies, specifically in North America, that don't really quite get it, that it is extraordinary. And
I think that the main reason behind that is because they just kind of look at it on the surface and they say, oh, well, yeah, that's pretty much how we do it too. But it's just, there's something different about it because like with Puma and Cuerno, Puma is the man right now. He is the champion. He is the guy. So for him to beat anybody clean is fine. Whereas in other companies, it seems like, and this even includes TNA and ROH, it seems like, no, you know what? I can't even say that because it really doesn't. It's just WWE. All the baby faces beat all the heels clean every time almost.
Right.
Like in the WWE, it is a rule that if you're a baby face, you either win clean or lose dirty, and that's just how it is.
Exactly.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's really annoying, man.
I mean, this is a bad example because obviously the heels won dirty, but it's not like that's the only way heels ever win. I mean, look at Pentagon. Pentagon destroys everybody, and he does it clean. I mean, the only dirty is the fact that he breaks their arms afterwards.
Yeah, and that's in the context of like post-match,
Right.
So it's like then it's just, a heel being a heel, more or less. I don't know, man. I just feel like Lucha Underground has their finger on the pulse so much more with, how to keep their characters engaging and compelling. And you certainly saw that on display in this match when you see King Cuerno get his momentum back, but not at the expense of Puma, because Puma had to take a freaking bull rope to the head to get it done.
You know what the difference was, John?
What's that?
When the baby faces win in Lucha Underground, it legitimately feels like they out-wrestled the other guy.
Yeah.
When the heels win, it legitimately feels like it was despite getting out-wrestled.
Exactly.
In WWE, it always feels like the heels are the ones that do the out-wrestling, and the babyface wins just because they're written to win. Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm serious, too, because, like, even if you want to look at like NXT, Eva Marie doesn't win because she out wrestles her opponent. She wins because she's scripted to win, and that's what it always feels like.
Right.
Whereas in Lucha Underground, we know that the matches are scripted, but it still feels like the baby faces are out wrestling their opponents.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Like I feel like you
And it's
summed it
not
up
even that the
perfectly.
heels are bad wrestlers; it's just the baby faces are that damn good.
Well, I mean, exactly, because I mean, think about who we were just talking about in the main event of the last, episode. Cuerno and Puma, two of the best wrestlers in Lucha Underground, at
Yeah,
my estimation, and certainly at yours too.
yeah.
But yeah, they just made Puma seem like, and rightfully so, like he is just on another freaking level.
Yeah.
And, I'm telling you, man, they just get it. I feel like you said it perfectly, but moving on, Cueto, he comes out. We know what the triple threat trios matchup is going to be. I believe that was going to be the next episode, or the episode after, I think it was. And he says, I want a little taste of it tonight. So you're going to pick a representative among you guys, and we're going to have a triple threat match because the other two teams are going to do the same, and all of you guys are going to compete. So then we end up getting Cage versus Son of Havoc versus the Mac. And once again, Ashton, Cage impresses. Like, this guy really is a machine because not
He's
only,
incredible.
yeah, not only does he eat all that offense that you were exclaiming about in the trios match earlier, he, takes a good beating here, but he continues to impress. My favorite spot in this thing, and I don't know why, even on the rewatch it sticks out to me, Son of Havoc's failed suicide dive because Cage catches him in the stalled vertical suplex. Like, unbelievable. And I love how clever the finish is because, Son of Havoc, he goes for the shooting star on the Mac. The Mac is going to be hit with it. There's no way he's going to escape it. But Cage pulls the Mac out of the ring. He slams him against the steel wall. Interesting seeing the interaction between those two guys given their future ultimately. And then Cage comes back in. He takes Havoc's head off, and then he gets him in Weapon X, and he gets the victory. So Cage wins 2 straight matches pretty much back to back. Like, what a monster.
He is. He
Unbelievable.
really, really is.
Unfreaking believable. I loved
Yep.
it, dude. Yeah, this triple threat was so much fun.
It was. It's Lucha Underground is just that much fun. But the triple threat itself, man, like this was the first time that you had ever seen Willie Mack too.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember like you were losing your mind talking about how awesome he was too.
Oh my god. Well, because you look at the
Because
guy.
it's such a
Yeah.
shock to see a guy that size move that well.
It's the same shock I had when I saw Samoa Joe for the first time. And I love that though. I love surprises like that. When you see a guy that's bigger and they move like a goddamn cruiserweight, like
Yeah.
there is nothing better to me than that. Because it's just like, man, wrestling really isn't in the 1980s or 90s anymore. Like, this is what wrestling is, where a guy appearances really are deceiving. And yeah, that's why I really love the Mac. I'd be curious to see, what he does the second season. I think he could be one hell of a babyface. He kind of, to me, has that Son of Havoc vibe where he'll be a wrestler of the people and he'll just have like kind of like that grassroots support, like people slowly and surely wanting him to do bigger and better things. I think the sky's the limit for the Mac. And yeah, he showed up in this match. Havoc, enough said. We've been praising him from the very beginning with our formal Twitwow reviews. And Cage, anytime they want to take Cage seriously and, put the belt on him and put him in those main event programs, he could carry that whole company, I think, on his back. He
Yep.
could be an attraction to me. So, yeah, I
And
love.
that's another thing too. I don't think that there are enough people, and this is not even just talking about like promoters. I'm talking about wrestling fans even. There aren't enough people that see the value in just having that freaking attraction. Not even like, oh, this is this baby face that everybody loves and wants to see win. Just you don't even need to you don't even need to care whether he wins or loses. You just pay to see them. Like that's just it. You just want to see this person exist. And Brian Cage has that kind of it factor.
It's always funny to me, Ashton, how when people have an attraction on their hands, and really here I speak of promoters, they inevitably kind of screw it up. And I'm going to use the most extreme example, and I know it's going to make people cringe, but even if you think about the great Khali, I'm going to be honest. I remember when he debuted, my mouth dropped a little bit because I had never seen a guy first of all, that big, and second of all, have that kind of muscle on him. And he just comes in and he destroys The Undertaker. Then at Judgment Day, he beats The Undertaker clean in pretty quick fashion, actually. The match didn't go that long. But then, you fast forward a little bit, and really, what do? You have him on TV regularly. It demystifies a character like that. That's why, for all the complaining people do about Brock Lesnar, I love the deal Brock Lesnar has. And you and I
Yes.
have said it constantly, because when Brock Lesnar shows up, somebody's getting their ass beat.
Yep.
Somebody's walking out unhealthier than when they walked in. And
That's a great way of putting it too.
and to me, I'm not lashing out at Lucha Underground, because I get that it's a totally different set of circumstances for them. They're not a juggernaut. They need all the support they can get. Maybe if they were bigger, they could look at a guy like Cage and be like, work X amount of dates for us, whatever. But WWE, you have no excuse. You have a monopoly pretty much on North America, more or less, despite the indie promotions like around you. And at least they did it right with Brock Lesnar, because they're thinking, and I wish they would have done it with a guy like Sting. To me, I'm sorry, if we were still doing Raw 2 reviews, and this is why we should do topical videos, I would have made a heat of the night that he even competed on Raw in the first place. I don't even care if it was against a guy like Randy Orton, and it would have been a big main event. Like, it's Sting. Like, know your attraction. And to me, I feel like Lucha Underground, if they were ever to get a big legend, hell, they kind of did later on with Blue Demon Jr., they know how to use attractions, and WWE, I think they do too, but maybe not as strongly as Lucha Underground does, is my point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if Cage were to ever get to that point, I'd trust Lucha Underground completely, man. He's got that it factor all over him.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Okay. So, man, you're so right. And we just had a great conversation. So let's talk about the next segment. This was kind of the second part of the two parts of Cueto really getting inside the head of Aerostar and Drago. Um, just kind of telling Drago about how much Aerostar wants to win and that kind of stuff. Just really going out of his way to make these guys resent each other. I love it.
Yeah, it's just inciting the violence. I'm telling
Yes.
you, you know who Dario Cueto is?
A
Cueto,
psychopath?
yes, he's a psychopath, but I
Oh,
was
did you
going to
mean
go like,
other than that?
yeah, other than that, he's the guy that if he was at a peaceful protest of people just like carrying signs and this and that, he'd be the first guy to pick up a rock and throw it through a window because he wants to see what'll happen.
Yeah.
That's Dario Cueto, and I love him for it. And you can see that here because, in a way, just to kind of bring it back to my whole metaphor, Aerostar and Drago were friends. Dario Cueto hates that friendship, not necessarily because it exists and it's like, I never had friends as a kid. No, it's far more simplistic than that. He thinks friendship inhibits quality violence. If I get rid of the friendship, I get my quality violence. Fair payoff. And I love that he's just willing to incite that at any cost. This just shows just how just morally bankrupt this man is. And he's just such a great. And you know what I love too? Like, you know what? No, that would be, I think, more appropriate for a raw topical video. I'll bite my tongue, but there's so much. But I just, as a compliment, I will say this: there's so much I could say about the Dario Cueto character. It can't be contained in one commentary. It is so good,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, that's a great point. But we need to move on a little bit here. But man, this frickin' company just gets it. They just get it. That's all it really comes down
Yeah,
to.
yeah, man.
I don't know why, I don't know how, but they just get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's let's move on here to Pentagon. Of course, we have him come out. He tells Melissa Santos that he wants her to read a note, or I think he might have even just whispered it in her ear. And she says that he dedicates his next sacrifice to his master. And then as she's walking away, he goes after her. He assaults her, and he tries to break her arm. And Vampiro almost saves her. Like, he gets his headset off, and he's just like, I can't just stand for this man. And he gets ready to go in the ring. But right as he's getting ready to get into the ring, you see Sexy Star out of the corner of your eye shoot under the rope and drop kick Pentagon so that he gets off of Melissa, and then grab her and roll her out of the ring and help her.
Yeah, and then Sexy Star pretty much lays down the gauntlet, like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm going to kick your ass. And Pentagon, he's just like, Pentagon's fuming, because now this is like the second time. I mean, yeah, he broke Superfly's arm and stuff, but obviously he still needs to make people pay. He still wanted to tear stuff up. Like, you know, the time is at hand. The master needs more sacrifices. So I love it, man. I just love the bloodlust of Pentagon and just the virtuous nature of Sexy Star. I think it's a perfect clash of just ideals here. So good stuff.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So up next, we had another Cueto kind of amazing moment where he takes over for Melissa Santos because she's, shook up from the whole Pentagon thing. And he does the ring announcing for our main event, which is Aerostar versus Drago. I think does he make it no DQ? Because I feel like he does.
I feel like he did too, because we did get a table spot in this match,
We
right?
did, and it was great. And Aerostar face planted almost as badly as Drago did in his match against Cuerno that one time.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
quite, because he didn't do it off Cueto's office, but it was still pretty bad.
And then, so you got the table spot, which actually gets Delavar Davari, who, the camera panned on a few times prior, but that's where he really jumps out of his seat and he says, "That's what I've been looking for." Yes, like that's the first time he really pops,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
And then the finishing sequence, I mean, man, Drago really drove the nail in that coffin because he did the blockbuster to Aerostar and then the Dragon's Tail, and that was
Yeah.
it, man. Done.
Can you blame him?
No, he's just like, you know what? I am so sick of this series. I'm putting it down. And man, did he ever.
He did. He really. I mean, I even realized oh my god, he has two finishers and he just used both of them to put Aerostar away.
Yeah, he was so done with everything.
And
So
again,
then,
I don't blame him.
the friendship does survive. So I guess that's like the good feelings until Cueto comes in because, he just has to be like, that's a mighty fine punch bowl you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. And he's just like, well, Aerostar, you get to leave, but Drago, you get the reward, for the unique opportunity. You get the best opportunity I could think of, a shot at the Lucha Underground World Championship against, Prince Puma. And, Drago's all happy. And then Cueto's like, but there is a catch. If you lose, you are banned from my temple forever. And the fans are all like, no. And Drago's all like, man, sucks. So that's pretty much that. Cueto's a dirtbag. Him and Silas Young definitely need to have a talk. And yeah, this is just a really fun episode.
He and Silas Young need to have a talk.
Well, yeah, because I remember, and I loved your delivery on it too. In our last ROH review, you're like, with Silas Young, he's such an amazing dirtbag, and I loved how you said dirtbag, and you're just really emphasizing what a scumbag he is. And
Yeah.
Cueto is his own kind of scumbag, so they'd probably get along well.
Yeah, they probably would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice.
All right. So, as you said, Drago wins and that whole stipulation. So, now we can talk about episode 24, the final episode in this series. And we open it up with Black Lotus.
Yeah.
She whips some of that henchman ass and then gets into a fight with El Dragon Azteca. She tells him about how much she hates him, but then he gets the upper hand and tells her she's not ready.
I love it too, because it's almost like you almost feel like a familial relation here, almost like he's looking after her like a guardian.
I hate you, Dad.
I hate you, Dad. I'm ready to drive, and you won't let me take the Camaro out. I hate you. And then she gets a dent in it, and he just kind of looks at her and is like, "Told you weren't ready. You're grounded." You're grounded. And that's pretty much it. And she's just like, I'm ready. I can beat Matanza. And then, when El Dragon Azteca pretty much, shuts that shit down. He's just like, yeah, no, you're not. And that's pretty much that. So great segment. I love this story. I love the interactions between Black Lotus and El Dragon Azteca. And yeah, this is just good stuff.
Absolutely. All right. So then up next, we had our first match of the night, Sexy Star versus Pentagon Jr. Kind of odd that they would put these two against each other this early, knowing that they just kind of started this little feud. But I like that it was really just kind of like feel things out and see, kind of get an idea of where they are against each other. And Sexy Star ends up winning. But the real story here is Melissa Santos, who is back as the ring announcer. She was all doom and gloom and depressed sounding when she announced Pentagon's name, and she got all chipper when she announced Sexy Star. But when Sexy Star won this match, she Melissa Santos sounded like the love of her life just proposed to her or something like that.
Yeah, she was elated with this victory from Sexy Star.
Yeah,
And I love that too, because she should be. I mean, when you're attacked in the workplace, you're not gonna have, any love for the attacker. Wouldn't make any sense. So yeah, I really like that. I like that human touch, I'll say, to this
yeah,
whole story with Melissa Santos. This is a fun matchup. This actually aggravated me less than some of Sexy Star's other victories, because at least she got a long blower preceding the pin. So, that at least worked out. It's not like she just caught Pentagon in some kind of small package or roll up or whatever. Pentagon was very frustrated, looking out at Sexy Star. And, I mean, we know what comes later between these two, which we'll talk about that more formally, in the next episode of Lucha Underground Rewatch. But yeah, for now, this wasn't a bad match by any means.
yeah, absolutely. So up next, once we get past the Melissa Santos ecstatic announcing, El Patron confronts Mundo in the back. You're
I'm
just
sorry.
so
I'm
upset
sorry.
about this guy. He makes it a point to bring up the fact that Mundo's team lost last week. Of course, he makes it seem like it was just Mundo that lost, but that's just Alberto being Alberto. But then he brings up, "Oh, you're just such a great athlete. I never understood why you couldn't just grab that brass ring.
Sorry.
Your jimmies are so rustled, and I love it."
Um, I know he said more. You had more you wanted to say?
What do you mean?
Well, didn't he say more than this? Didn't he say more slanderous lies, or was
I
this?
mean, everything just kind of had that "Why are you so good and that you can't bring the big one" kind of vibe. Did you literally just want me to say that so you could sigh again?
You know, first of all, it's not about the sighing. Okay, this isn't about the sighing.
What
You
is it
know,
about?
well, first of all, it's about Mundo's retort. Like, watch yourself. I'm not just some guy you can push around. To which Patron flippantly responds, Johnny, you need to chill out. And then it would be about the sighing, because I did it again in my heart and in my mind. I'm just like, you know. But no, it's fine. It's fine. Alberto El Patron wants to pal around a little bit. That's fine. You cut that promo, and then we'll just retort, by actually doing something. Because that's just the difference. He can talk about doing things, but Mundo's actually going to do it, because he's, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? A winner. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, look, Ashton, you wake up every day. You wake up a winner. You know what it means to associate with winners. Can you blame Mundo? I mean, he comes to work surrounded by these losers. He's on the same roster as Superfly, for God's sakes. He already suffers enough, and then he has to deal with Alberto El Patron's lip. Uh, excuse me. I don't really see where any of this is coming from. I think
I don't
Alberto
really
should just
see why you had to bring Superfly into this, but
Listen, we all know that we laughed at him when he got his arm broken and he lost his livelihood. It was
no,
even
no,
just
John,
a
that was
little bit
just
funny.
you.
Well, still, it was hilarious. So, of course, I'm going to bring him into this. And, of course, I'll bring Alberto's children into this if that's what it takes. Because Kevin Owens is the only real father in professional wrestling. But that's beside the point. Point is, I'm tired of this disrespect, man. It was disgusting. Gotta learn some respect around here. Those are my
Wow.
two cents on that segment. Johnny, shut up.
I'm really glad you got that off your chest, John.
I am too. I'm thinking this rewatch has been just amazing therapy. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So now can we move on?
Certainly we can.
Okay, that's wonderful. Up next, we had our second match of the night, which was Team Sitcom versus The Family versus Metal Gear Solid for the Lucha Underground Trios titles.
This was so much
And
fun.
it was an elimination match too, which I had actually forgotten about.
Yeah, and I really like that too, because I think that really allowed, first of all, the importance to be heightened as the match progressed. Everybody to get their kind of stories and their shit in, and things like that. Because the first big turning point of this match really is the emergence in terms of physicality of Delavar Davari. He goes from spectator to aggressor because Tejano bumps into him and I think spills his Johnny Walker, on Delavar Davari. And he just, he's not taking that lion down. He sends Tejano into the ring post. He beats him up. He chokes him against the apron, and he tosses him into a clear, set of chairs because he has the audience clear out. and then he takes his shirt off because I think he has an adrenaline rush, and then he goes to the back. Tejano then gets pinned after a double stomp by Killshot. So that's that elimination. And then you pretty much see, the family, the Mac, Big Rick, and Killshot working as cohesive unit against Team Sitcom that's got to struggle to get along just to win this thing. And it's a great story, dude.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, I mean, the fact that Team Sitcom doesn't even like each other and they made it as far as they did is amazing. And it really just kind of comes down to not even necessarily working as a team, but just all three individuals being so freaking talented. And I think this was actually the match that Ivelisse injured herself in too as well. And the crazy thing is, it that's not even necessarily true from what I understand. She actually injured herself during rehearsals that morning.
Right.
So just crazy, man.
Yeah, and you know what? For as horrible as the injury was, I'll say that both Ivelisse as a performer and just Lucha Underground as a promotion, they really knew how to turn that into an ingenious storytelling tool.
Yeah.
Because, man, if that wasn't great to get Ivelisse and just Team Sitcom as a whole, a lot of sympathy against heel opposition, both in this tournament and just, the subsequent matches after the fact. Because, they do beat the family. And when they feel like they've gotten the win, when they feel like that's all said and done, Cueto comes out and he says, "Oh, I forgot to tell you there was one more team in this tournament, the Crew." And I love that too because I remember when you and I were watching it the first time. I don't know if it was during the middle of the tournament or just when he announced it and like we knew the teams were going to be involved. I don't know if it was me or you or we both kind of said, that we thought it was weird that the Crew wasn't in it. And then Dario Cueto, again, being that scumbag promoter who has exhibited favoritism, he was just saving the Crew, to kind of peg the bones of whoever emerged with the titles.
Right.
So great stuff, great storytelling again. So then not only did these guys have to get along for all of these matches, but now when they're really at their lowest point, they've got to rally together one last time to definitively be called champions. And just the ensuing brawl was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just this whole match. I mean, not even just talking about some of the outside stuff that was going on. I mean, this match was so different. It felt so different at the time because this was really the first match that we saw that involved this many people that went this far out of the ring.
Right.
And we would see it more often later on in the season. Like I feel like this happened at least two more times, if not three. But this was the first time, and then of course Angelico does his leap of faith, and just this match was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that too because the leap of faith to me, it's a great spot physically, but from a storytelling perspective, like it's also ingenious because it says, you know what? Yeah, these guys they don't like each other, but they realize the opportunity before them, and that's why these sacrifices are made. Because I still look at Angelico after he does what he would infamously call the crossbody, and I'll let him have it because he damn sure earned it. And he just looks like he's dead. Like, yeah, guys, that's it for me. You guys, you take care of the rest.
Yeah.
It just looked absolutely brutal. You see Ivelisse, which again, I hate that she got injured, but I'll be damned if they didn't make the best of it because the image of her hobbling just to get the cane and to just get kind of a little bit of a comeuppance on the Crew, brilliant imagery. I loved it. I was sucked in. And then you see Angelico and Son of Havoc doing the double dives. Evilise kind of holding the cane, being the enforcer, checking on everything, and they get the win. It's a great sight, dude. Again, this whole match, from Angelico's dive to just the brawls itself, and then that final image, it's all a defining moment for this first season.
Yeah.
Even Striker's commentary, I thought, was on point here. And this match, I feel like, first of all, this tournament and the coming together of Team Sitcom, if you want to go even that far back, but really this final bout to determine the first champion really is Lucha Underground to me at its absolute best. Because I feel like if it was WWE, they wouldn't have had such a drawn out match for one, because I really loved how they let the tension build and the anticipation build.
Yeah.
Second of all, I feel like they would have let the heels go over, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying they probably would have had a difference in storytelling philosophy. And three, I don't even know. Team Sitcom probably would have gotten their win back, but it wouldn't have been nearly as dramatic as this. I feel
Yeah.
like by Lucha Underground saying, you know what? The Crew aren't meant to be these dominant badasses. They're meant to be lackeys. lackeys that, only are really legitimate when they can gang up on people or they're armed with, canes or trash can lids or tables, so let's just have them, take the loss. Let's really give Team Sitcom this chance to sign. Let's really tell the story about an unlikely pairing overcoming adversity. And they told it brilliantly. And I love it, man. I love this
Yeah,
moment. It's great.
completely agree with you, man.
So yeah, trios champions to close the show out. That I think, because I don't think we had a cinematic segment after the fact, so it's just the champions celebrating to
Yep.
end this
And when
episode.
this was
That's
over too, the first thing that I said was I freaking love this promotion, just because even after having seen this before, like the feeling that you get when Evilise is directing traffic and Angelico and Son of Havoc do their top rope moves onto the crew guys and they pick up that 3 count. Just pure elation.
definitely, man. Again, it comes back to that imagery. It comes back to that environment that you're kind of creating. And the temple's such a great place because Havoc was so over. And what was so great about this match is Havoc was probably the most over of the team going into it, but each member got individual chance for something that they did. Angelico, obviously with the crossbody, got his chance and got his respect. Evilise, because people knew something was wrong with the ankle, or at least started to piece it together, even in a kayfabe sense, seeing her limp over to get the cane to take out the crew. They're like, yeah, she is the baddest bitch in this building. So they came, and not only did they get the Trios Championship, each individual really got their respect. And that's just what makes everything about this so fantastic, because
Yeah.
by itself, it's an excellent piece of storytelling. But then when you look at the reception of the story, I think it just heightens its greatness, just that much more. This was
Yeah,
fantastic.
definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
It is. Man, we still managed to go for about an hour six, but I don't really have anything else to say. Hashtag Netflix needs Lucha. Guys, if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. If if you have anything to say, please leave a comment. We love talking to you guys. We've been getting some pretty awesome feedback on this series specifically, even though it's not getting a ton of views relative to some of the other stuff. Even NXT is getting more views than Lucha Rewatch, which is surprising to me because Lucha Underground reviews are always very popular. But regardless, I just love that there are it's not necessarily in this case about how many fans we have talking about Lucha Rewatch. You guys are so passionate about this. I mean, we even have the one dude, PW Gregory, is watching right along with us, taking notes of his own.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love how much you guys are into this. I love our consistent commenters, specifically on our Lucha Underground reviews. I notice, like, you guys, you come to play ball, every week, and we really appreciate that. I feel like it's people like you that are hopefully doing your part in the Netflix needs Lucha movement, or really just for me, the Lucha Underground needs a home movement so they can keep doing what they're doing.
yeah.
Because my thing is, guys, when I think about the future, I know as soon as Lucha Underground gets a home, they can think about all they have to think about is producing those stories, acquiring the talent, to expand their roster. They can think about things that a wrestling company should be thinking about, and we
Not
can help them get there.
distribution.
Exactly. You know? And, once they're settled on that front, it's like, okay, now we can really be the company we want to be and have the security in being it. And I want to help them get that security because
Yeah,
doing this rewatch, man, and reliving these memories with you, even with the laughs we have, about certain characters and this and that, like, I love everybody here.
yeah.
Even Patron, for all the digs that I can take, great acquisition, and he had great matches on Lucha Underground. I want to see him come back and do more. I'm still curious how him and Prince Puma could lock up in a ring because he had those teases. We even talked about him in the last Lucha Underground rewatch. So there's still so much for Lucha Underground to do. It hasn't even begun yet, really. I just want to see him find a good home wherever that is. Preferably Netflix, but we'll see where it goes, guys. Let's just keep making it happen.
Absolutely. All right, guys. That being said, we will see you for our NXT review tonight, or if you're only interested in Lucha Rewatch, we will see you next Wednesday with episodes 25 through 28. If you'd like to kind of join in with us on that, go ahead and watch those episodes on whatever you can, whether it's, Daily Motion, Watch Wrestling, however you can manage to get your hands on it, or of course, if you have El Rey, maybe on demand, something like that. Sling TV is an option if you can get that. I think it's like $20 a month, and you get a bunch of TV channels and stuff. That's how we watched Ultima Lucha Part One together. But yeah, there are some options, but none of them support Lucha Underground directly. So hashtag Netflix needs Lucha. Really grind out on that too.
Absolutely, guys. See you
All
then.
right. That being said, we'll see everybody for whatever they decide to tune in for next.